Hey guys, Dr. Axe here along with Kate Johnson. She's our Vice President of Brand Marketing. And today we're going to be talking about the metal element, one of the 5 elements of Chinese medicine. And before I get started, I do want to say Kate is, and maybe you're not supposed to say this, but she's one of my favorite team members. She's kind of my go-to person. If, hey, we want to accomplish something, get something big done, I put it in Kate's hands because she always does it with excellence. And so I love Kate. She does an amazing job. But let's first off talking about characteristics of metal elements.
Yes.
So, because you're metal.
Yeah.
Which is great.
I think it's actually what started this whole thing off was we were traveling around a couple of years ago with some other team members, and you were telling us all about what our elements were, and then it just became something that the whole team got really excited about and really into.
So metal element, and just to let you know, just a quick brief overview, the elements are 5 elements. It's very similar to doing a personality test like an Enneagram or a disc profile or Myers-Briggs. And all of us have different emotions when we come into conflict, which actually affects the health of our organs. And so metal elements actually are associated with certain nations like Japan. Everything is very black and white. Think about even martial arts. Like China is more earth, so they're martial artists. Japan is karate. It's very much like this. And so metal elements tend to be black and white. There's a right way to do things, and there's a wrong way to do things. And metal elements are also very structured. They have things laid out that should be done, they believe, specifically as well, in a very specific way, in a very specific order. So you may know somebody like that. They're structured, and they also, and they're black and white. Metal elements tend to be the most productive of all elements. If you want to get something done and done well, give it to a metal element because they're also so good with systems, creating systems in their life and at work and different things, and making things orderly is a very, very great thing about the metal element. Now, if metal elements get imbalanced, they can be judgmental. That's one of the things, okay? They can be overly judgmental, they can be critical, and metal elements can also, if they get out of balance, and again, if metal elements in balance, they're warm, they can be joyful, be happy, but if they're out of balance, they can be cold. So think about like cold metal. That's if a metal element is out of balance. And the emotion that they'll experience if they have something that they're not dealing with in a positive way can be depression. Kind of a sense of loss, sort of grief, a sadness about things didn't go the way they wanted, versus other elements could be like water element is fear, my element is frustration and impatience as a wood element. So those are a few things about metal elements.
Yeah, that definitely sounds right, especially the structure and process piece. I feel like one of the things that I think I'm good at is entering chaotic situations and putting process and structure and systems there. It's like the first place I feel like my head goes to. So.
You are fantastic at that.
So it makes it perfect for startup life.
It is perfect. They actually say, so I'm a wood and Kate's a metal, and they say wood and metal together tend to be the most productive. They say sort of metal chops wood, but you can build a house out of it. There's a lot of productivity which happens with these 2 elements.
I was going to say it's also perfect because your co-founder, Jordan, is a metal too.
That's right.
Yeah,
Jordan's a metal. I'm a wood, and I get along great with metal elements because especially you want to get a lot done. It's a good pairing.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your husband, Jimmy. He's a water. So we're going to take a minute. We're going to talk about how elements interact, and you may be wondering what element you are. We have a whole video series here. If you haven't watched all those, make sure to watch those. And also, we're going to talk about the best foods for metal elements, the best supplements, herbs, all that sort of stuff. But first, let's talk about interacting with other elements. So Jimmy, your husband.
Hi, Jimmy.
He's a water.
Yeah, he's a water.
So some things to know. Water elements tend to be very go with the flow. They don't really care about processes in your systems. They don't really care. Now, because they're so go with the flow, they'll tend to be, hey, if you got a processor system, I'll go with it. Unless you go way overboard, and then sometimes they'll finally revolt and be like, this is too structured for me, and like you're keeping me in two. But anyways, water elements are awesome because water elements, they're deep, they're like the philosophers. They're, again, think about like the islands, the Caribbean. It's, hey, whatever, man, just go with the flow.
Yeah, I think it's probably good that we have that kind of balance where I want to do certain things, one way. And a lot of times it's not that he has to do it that way, but just to kind of let me do it how I want to do something.
That's right. That's right. So it's an interesting, but also a great pairing. Metal and water elements tend to do well together. All the elements, if people are healthy, if they're in balance, Okay, so let's talk about a few others. So metal and fire. Metal elements and fire elements, they can get along pretty well. So fire elements tend to be they create community, okay? They create relationships. And then metal elements so I kind of think about just throwing this out there, like an organization or even a church. It's where somebody fosters community, but then you can't just have, if you want to facilitate growth for people, you have to have a system in place. You have to create that. And so again, it's a good pairing. One of the great things about fire and then earth, we'll talk about next, or talk about it now. Earth elements are we both know several earths.
Yeah.
Earths are so happy. They're joyful. If they were dogs, they'd be golden retrievers.
I love earth because it's not me, but I feel like I need the earth in my life to, you'll send me earths to come hug me because you think it's been too long, maybe.
I did that recently.
And it's spot on. There's that moment of resistance where I'm like, please don't, but okay, I'll accept.
and metal elements and wood, myself included, if it was only us, we would probably only work and we wouldn't even think about having fun.
No hugs.
So
Definitely not.
So that's the great thing about earth, some fires, even, waters aren't going to typically walk up and hug you, but hey, they'll be like, yeah, I'll take a hug. But the earth and the fire, metals need them especially because if not, metals will just, get in their zone, in their box and whatever. So it's great. All right, let's talk about food for metal elements.
Yeah.
Now, actually, metal elements associated with a specific color, and it's a light yellow or white. And those foods in Chinese medicine are known to nourish the lungs and the colon. So the lungs and colon, essentially your immune system, your entire immune system is related to the metal element. So if a metal element, if they get out of balance and unhealthy, again, if they have too much depression or a sense of loss, or maybe, again, they're thinking too much about their past. That's another thing. Metal elements are associated with the past, or what elements are the future. I tend to think so much all the time about the future too much and live in the future, where metal elements can live too much in the past if they're out of balance. That being said, if you have depression, live in the past too much, all those things, that affects your immune system. It weakens your immune system. So there are foods. Now, one, you need to take care of that emotionally. You need to stop living in the past, live in the present, okay? But also with that, the foods are ginger. Okay, ginger is that light yellow color. Chicken bone broth, which is light yellow. Think they're light yellow. They're both known as immune boosting foods. Cauliflower is another good one. Horseradish, things that sometimes have the umami flavor too. Cheeses, milks. Those things are all related to the metal element, especially fermented dairy like a kefir, something like that. And then herbs that metal elements do really well with. Again, I mentioned ginger is probably one of the best. Anything that clears out the lungs and supports the colon, metal elements, probiotics are actually really important. You really need to take care of and build. And it's good for everybody, but again, metal elements actually the most important. And then also just filtering the lungs. It's important for metal elements that they are doing some sort of cardio, that they're breathing and exerting some sort of energy where they're breathing a little heavily a few days a week. And breathing's important for metal.
Interesting. Yeah. Those are fortunately all things that I consume and all of that. So then what would you recommend for, those are all great things for, just kind of maintaining, building health. What do you suggest, other lifestyle things, or, how do you continue to build and stay in balance?
Yeah, I think for metals, again, there's a healthy balance of structure, but I also think there's a point in time where they need to let go and not be worried about structure. And so maybe it's a certain amount of days a week, but I would say the most important thing is, putting yourself around certain types of people, getting around those earth elements, getting around people that are warm and kind with those characteristics specifically are probably the most important. And not to say that a metal element can't have too much.
Yeah.
If a metal element constantly has somebody hugging them and eventually they're gonna be all right, I've had enough here. But having those people in your life, the warm, the huggers, the lovers, it's important for metal.
All right, fair
That's
enough.
good.
I'll accept the hugs.
So want to encourage you guys, if you're a metal element, again, you'll know you're a metal element. And metal element features-wise, by the way, they tend to have more pale skin compared to people in their family. Metal elements tend to have sometimes a little bit whiter features, and they tend to be strong. Like metal elements actually tend to be pretty strong. Think about metal; it's a strong thing. So metal elements, that's another thing. Just even their heart and their character, they tend to be strong people. But again, going back to this, they tend to rely on themselves, and rather than sometimes bringing community and asking for help. So that's another thing. Keeping metals healthy. It's healthy to ask for help and have those different things. But again, metal elements, if you're very organized, if you're structured and those different things, it probably means you're a metal. You want to take care of yourself. Ginger, chicken bone broth, and surrounding yourself with warm and loving people, not living in the past or with depression, but focusing on making the most of the present and the future. If you do that, you're going to be healthy as a metal element. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks,
This
Kate.
was awesome.
This is great. Thanks everybody for watching.